in my mom's marriage to my stepdad, I saw a lot of violence in the home, domestic violence, physical abuse, as well as verbal abuse. And that's where I really learned a lot of my values and beliefs. And I didn't know that then. I didn't know that until later on in life, that those things that I saw and heard were teaching me life lessons. So yeah, that was basically how elementary school and junior high was. Once it came time for high school, once I became a teenager, started going to high school, I started going to public school, no more private school. I started going to public school. I knew a lot of the people. I was already hanging around with a lot of the people. Anyway, I didn't really hang around with a lot of the people from the private school. The neighborhood where I grew up at, was all the people I was hanging around with. So, and back then there wasn't really gang activity going on out here. It really didn't start till like the mid to late '80s. So in the early '80s, we were into breakdancing. I used to get my little breakdance on, my little pop block. In the early '80s, we had our little crew, you know what I mean? And we used to battle other crews and all that kind of stuff. And then in the later part of the mid '80s and into the late '80s, that started transitioning. That's when gang activity really started popping out here. There were people that moved out here from the Valley and from LA, that kind of brought that style out here, and it started catching on a lot. But with me and what became my homies, my friends that ended up becoming my homeboys, our trip was kind of like, okay, we see a lot of people move, a lot of gente moving out here from other spots, but we're from out here. You know what I mean? This is our city. That's, the mentality we had was this is ours. So we started our own thing. We started our little neighborhood out here and started gang banging. I got into drugs, started using meth, became addicted to meth. That was my thing. I was a tweaker, you know what I mean? Got no problem admitting where I come from. I was a tweaker. I was on that stuff on a regular basis. So that was the lifestyle I was living as a teenager.
I'm not familiar with the area other than the Magic Mountain and the mountain lands.
Right.
What was the name of the gang?
The neighborhood I used to be from was called Eastside Palmas. Palmas for Palmdale. That's the original Latino gang from the city of Palmdale. And then in Lancaster, they had a neighborhood called LANCAS. And for excuse me, for the longest, it was just us and them, and we were their main enemy, they were our main enemy, and that's all it was back then. As the '80s started going and into the '90s, a lot of people started moving out here from the city. You know what I mean? A lot of parents whose sons and daughters were getting in trouble in LA and in the Valley started moving them out here, thinking it was going to get them away from that type of lifestyle and away from the trouble. But all the same people were just congregating out here. So all kinds of neighborhoods from LA and from the Valley started popping up. There's chapters of gangs out here from East LA, from South LA, from the Valley, from all over, really. You know what I mean? And that's in the late '80s and early '90s is when it really started kicking off like that.
Yeah, but so obviously you joined Palmas eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Man, but there had to be something that something caught your eye, or the lifestyle, movies. What was the thing, man, that think attracted you, and then eventually, how did you make the decision to turn into that lifestyle?
Like I was saying earlier, a lot of the things I experienced at home developed my belief system. Let me give you a couple of examples. So, like watching my stepdad verbally abuse my mom, physically abuse my mom. At this time, I'm probably like 6, 7, 8 years old. And in my young mind, what that's teaching me is that that's how you deal with people when you get mad. When you get mad, you use violence to solve the problem. My stepdad was originally from Bakersfield. So we used to go out there to visit his family a lot. We used to go out there and visit his people. He was Mexican too. So all his nieces and nephews, which were my step cousins, were all Mexican. As I mentioned earlier, I'm half Mexican, half white. So they used to tease us a lot, pick on me and my brother. And a point came where I got tired of it. I'm 8, 9, 10 years old. I'm tired of getting picked on. And I can clearly remember an instance where they were messing with us, and I just reached back and fired on one of them, punched him as hard as I could in the face, busted his nose. But from there, they never bothered us again. Now the whole thing changed. Now they started respecting us and including us and treating us right. So again, in my young mind, I'm learning a life lesson that violence brings respect. You know what I mean? So I take those beliefs and those values into my teenage years. Again, I grew up without my dad. My mom ended up divorcing my stepdad, so I don't have no father figure in my life. So the people that became my homeboys, I was looking up to them. I was looking for that male acceptance in my life. You know what I mean? In my young mind, okay, my dad left, my stepdad left. What's wrong with me? How come? What is it about me that people are leaving? So now I got these friends that are showing me love. I got these friends that are embracing me, and so I liked that. I wanted that. You know what I mean? I started to feel loved by them. So it made it easy for me to do what they do. When we transitioned from breakdancing into gangbanging, and these friends went into that life, my fear was, oh man, I better go with them, or here I am again without nobody caring about me. You know, now that I'm older, now that I'm at the point in my life where I am, I understand I had people that cared about me. I had my mom, I had other family. There was people in the community that I could have sought that role modelship from. But when I was young, I wasn't thinking like that. You know, I just wanted to keep my friends. I didn't want to lose my friends. So I was down to do whatever they did. You know what I mean? I wanted to do whatever they did. So once that started happening, and then, you know, the pride thing, as I said, I'm already now, by this time I'm a teenager, got this little chip on my shoulder because I'm a half breed from this little tiny city. We got people moving out here from LA and from the Valley that think they're crazier than us and more down than us and all that kind of stuff because they're from the city. So I got this chip on my shoulder of, oh, it's all right, I'm going to show you. I'm just as down as you. I'm just as Mexican as you. And then all that together just made it real easy to jump into that lifestyle. And
What
yeah,
year
there was,
talking?
go ahead.
What year we talking?
Like in the late 80s, like 88, 89, 87, 80, 89, around there.
Yeah, man. Please keep going, man.
Oh, and
So
I
now
was
you
gonna say
started
that,
gang
yeah.
life
So,
in high school.
yeah, now we're doing that, right? I had a girlfriend in high school, my high school sweetheart. I ended up getting her pregnant. So I dropped out of school to get a job. I was working at Burger King. She had our son. We got married. So now here I am. I'm 18 years old. I have a wife. I have a son that I'm responsible for. But I'm into meth. I'm running the streets. Um, so I really wanted to try to change that. At that time in my life, I was like, okay, I need to do something. I don't want my son to experience life the way I did. So I wanted to try to get myself together. So I joined the military. I went to the Marines. I applied for the Marines. They wouldn't take me because I was a high school dropout. Air Force, same thing. Army, same thing. The Navy was the only one willing to take me without a high school diploma, but I had to score higher on the entrance exam than a high school graduate did, which I was able to do. So I ended up going in the Navy. But I was young, bro. I was 18. I was young-minded. I was still in that street mentality. So I was getting in trouble in the military. I was going out to clubs, getting in fights, drinking, still using meth. So after a year and a half, I got kicked out. Got kicked out of the military. My wife and I were in the process of divorce already. She had already moved back home. I was still out there in San Diego. And then they kicked me out, and I came back out here to the Antelope Valley. So now here I am out here, in my mind, like viewing myself as a failure. You know what I mean? Got kicked out of the military. My marriage is in shambles. I'm not being a good father to my son. So I turned back to what I knew. Went back to the streets. Started partying again, hanging out with the homies, carrying a strap, and was back fully immersed in that lifestyle.
Man, keep going, please.
Yeah, so I was back out here living at my mom's, not working, running around with the fellas, tweaking, all that. I hooked up with some friends, a particular partner that he used to sling meth. He was a dope dealer. So I'm kicking it with him. He had his own little pad. Me and the girl that I was messing with at the time, we moved in with him and his girl. So now I'm kind of like his security, I guess you could say, when he goes out and does deals, because he was selling, big stuff. When he goes out and does deals, I go with him just to make sure nothing goes wrong. And in the process of doing that, he's got me carrying around a knife, a pocket knife with my was our protection, right? So in the process of doing that, I told him we need guns. You know what I mean? We need guns. If I'm gonna be doing this, helping you, we need to be strapped. So he ended up getting some guns. So now I got guns with us. So we're living there at that little spot out here in Lancaster, and we had some roommates. You know, he's a dope dealer, so there's always people around. The pad always has people. So there were some people there kicking it, some girls that became our roommates. They lived there with us too, and we're all tweakers. We're all using dope. So one particular night, these girls asked me for a ride to. So I got to kind of tell you how at that time out here. This is 1991. So out here, there weren't like clubs for people to go to. So the thing out here was house parties, and people used to hang out in the parking lots of like fast food places. So, and I know it's gonna sound funny to people that never experienced it, but like, so the Taco Bell parking lot on Friday and Saturday night would be packed out with like 150, 200 people drinking, bumping music, getting high, doing whatever. So that was kind of the scene, right? And at that time, my wife and I were already in the process of divorce. So we had an understanding that every other weekend we would trade off with my son, right? So one weekend she would have him, the next weekend I would have him, the next weekend she had him. So this particular weekend was my weekend with my son. So I picked my son up. I'm there at the pad kicking it. My roommates are there. And now they want to ride. They want to ride to the Taco Bell. They're like, hey, we're going to go hang out at the Taco Bell. Can you give us a ride? And at first, my instinct was like, nah, you know, I got my son. I'm cool. But then, of course, my immaturity started kicking in. I'm thinking like, man, if they're gonna see me as a weenie, you know what I mean? If I don't give them a ride, the honest truth is there goes my chance of ever sleeping with him. You know what I mean? And my young mentality and my immaturity, that lifestyle I was living, that's what my thought process was.
Can I break in really quick?
Absolutely.
Just this is 1991.
Yeah,
I
1991.
just want to share with like the people watching that for those of you who don't know, Southern California, 1990, 91, 92, 93, 94. Man, those were just years in Southern California that it was a murder. It was mafia. I mean, it was just everything. SoCal was a bloodbath. So I just want to share that set the stage that it's made comebacks, but never like that time, man. That was a crazy time in SoCal. So go ahead.
And especially out here in the Antelope Valley, because there was an influx of people, like I said, moving out here from LA, moving out here from the Valley. A lot of us that are from out here, we're like in our late teens now, early 20s. So we're really like trying to defend our territory and all that kind of stuff. So it was active out here. You know what I mean? I give in. I tell the girls, okay, you know what? I'll take you. So I didn't want to take my son with me because I already know what's popping over there. I know I'm liable to run into some enemies or who knows what. So I wanted to take my son back to his mom's. And the first mistake I made, obviously, was making the choice to go because I was supposed to be being a father. I should have stayed there with my son. So the first mistake I made was being willing to take them. The second mistake I made was bringing a gun with me. I had my own personal policy that when I have my son with me, I don't take my strap nowhere. But this time I knew where I was going. I knew I was liable to run into some cats. So boom, I bring my little strap with me. We jump in the car, take my son to his mom. She's tripping, like, it's your weekend. What are you doing? I tell her, don't worry, I'll be back. You know, I'm just going to go drop them off and I'll be back. So, okay, cool. So she takes her son in. We take off. So we're en route to this Taco Bell where I'm going to go drop them off at. As we're going, I pass this particular liquor store and a carload of my homeboys is right there and they flag me down. They see me going, so they flag me down. So I pull into the liquor store, hop out. They're all like, you know, what's up? What are you guys doing? The females jump out. Oh, we're just going to the Taco Bell. And one of my homies tells me, hey, they're having a house party over here on such and such. He tells me the address, right? So I'm like, nah, you know, I'm just giving them a ride and I got to go back and get my son. Well, when the girls hear party, oh, party, let's go. Take us to the party instead. So, all right, here we go now. So I'm like, all right, let's go to the party. I'll go stay for like an hour and then I got to bounce. So we go. We head to the party. We get there. Probably like about 50, 60 people there. They got DJ, kegs of beer, you know, basic house party back in the days. You know what I mean? So we're there. We're dancing. We're kicking it. It's all Latinos, all gang members, just doing what we do, partying, having a good time. A carload of white boys shows up. 3 white boys and a couple girls are with them. And initially, nobody's tripping. They ain't causing no problems. So they're just there. So they knew somebody there. They got invited, so they come in. Turns out they're selling acid, right? So people are doing acid. People are buying acid from them. One of my homies buys some acid from them, kicks everybody down. So we all drop acid. We're drinking. And at some point through the party, one of my homies decides he wants to jack him. I guess he's seen the dude's money or whatever, so he decides he wants to jack him. So we're like, okay, cool, do your thing. And I hope I don't offend anybody, any of the viewers, because I'm not a racist person. But at the time, my mentality at the time, we were thinking, these are just some white boys. They ain't gonna fight back. This is gonna be easy. We need to go with you. You just go do your thing. So the homie goes out there with him. He goes outside. I'm dancing with some girls. And the next thing I know, one of the other homies comes running in and he grabs me and he's like, hey, fool, they're outside fighting. What? So we run out there. I see the homie that was going to jack these cats. He's got one of them on the ground and he's stabbing him. And his friends are yelling, leave him alone, leave him alone. He don't got nothing. I'm faded, bro. I'm going to be, 100. I'm drunk. I did acid. I'm toe up. So them yelling is like irritating me. So, hey, shut up. Why don't you guys mind your business? No, leave him alone. Leave him alone. I pull out my gun